Everything Old is New Again is sponsored by the Law Office of Douglas Viviani. Douglas Viviani has been providing quality legal service for over 26 years. We're a general practice firm and can handle any legal matter you may have for a reasonable fee. If you're involved in a car accident, starting a business, planning your estate, or need a criminal attorney, please call 631-681-1910 or email us at vivianilaw@aol.com for a free consultation. Get the justice you deserve. Contact the Law Office of Douglas Viviani at vivianilaw@aol.com.
Excuse me, I'm taking a survey. Who do you like?
I like the 2-horse. It's got front reps. I always bet a horse with front reps.
Excuse me, I'm taking a survey.
I'm telling you, go for your lungs. The big money on the 4-horse. He's the only close. I mean, real money.
Who do you like?
I like the 6. That's the horse. That's it.
Uh-huh. Why?
I always bet on 5.
Who do you like?
Up yours. The number 1 horse.
Thank you.
I like the 4, number 4.
These other nags are gonna die. They're so tired, they'll get to the 8th hole, they'll look like they're standing still at a bus stop. They'll go by.
I'm taking a survey, Jack. You take your own survey.
I like the 6.
I like the 4-horse.
The 1 horse.
I like the 6 horse.
Uh-huh. Three.
Everything old is new again.
Win. Let it ride.
Wait. This is Douglas Viviani at Everything Old is New Again. We are enjoying a discussion continued from last week with our special guest, John Servita, a horse racing aficionado, been in the field for at least 30 years on and off, enjoying the game, if you will. I'm here also with David Cohen. And we're going to express today what it's like to be at the track and to enjoy betting the proper way. What is betting all about? How does betting work? That's a clip from Let It Ride, a great movie starring Richard Dreyfuss, where he took the survey of people around the stadium, around the park, if you will. And if you notice, none of the horses that they said you should bet on, he bet on. He bet on the number 3 because he figured that all of their advice is wrong. And if they're not picking a horse, I'm going to go for that one. That was his system. I'm sure there are more systems. How many systems do you think you've been exposed to, John, in your experience over the last 30 years that people have come to you and said, I've got a system, this is how I'm going to win?
Thousands. Believe it or not, thousands of systems. Whether it be they're betting the gray horse, whether it be they're betting a certain trainer, whether it's a distance, a grass specialist. Someone says, I always win on the grass, whether they win on the mud. Everybody's got a system.
Or a jockey. What was that fellow's name? Samin on the green? Is that
Samin on the green. Jean-Luc Samin on the green. Correct.
So is he still a jockey?
He's not riding anymore.
All right. So, I mean, but even, someone that's just outside the game a little bit myself, I was familiar with that. There are certain jockeys you bet on. But let's talk about betting in general. What it was like back in the day. How did betting start, or what was the betting scene like back in the day?
Well, the real way it started is how they still do it in England and Ireland. They actually have bookies. They have actual bookmakers that have a booth that they stand at, and they actually will take your bet. And you put $2 to win or $2 to place or whatever you want. It basically was straight wagering, as they call it. Win first, play second, show third. So you bet on a horse to come first, second, or third. So you actually would go to a window before there was computers, and you would just say you would go to $2 win window, and you would just say, give me the 1. And the guy would punch the button, the 1, and that would print out a ticket on the 1 horse. This is before we had fancy computers. So you would just stick with win, place, and show. For example, most people back then were going to the track for entertainment. They weren't going to make a lot of money. If you bet $2 and you make $8, it's not a lot of money, but they didn't want to lose money. So my grandfather, for instance, he would go to the track, and he would go there for 7 races a day, and he'd only put $2 to show on a horse just to make 10 cents. He'd get back $2.10. And that was his day to race. He was just going to have fun. He wasn't really there to make money. Now it's the complete opposite today. Now when you talk about wagering, you don't only have win, place, and show. You have exacta. You bet first and second. You have trifectas, first, second, and third. You have superfecta, first, second, third, and fourth in the same race.
Now, talking about your grandfather and his betting back in the day, obviously win means the horse came in first place or is going to come in first place. Win place means they're going to come in first or second and you win. Show first, second, or third and they're going to win. I mean, just to get an idea.
Why don't they just say first, second, and third?
Well, they had to come up with something different to keep people interested, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, good question, but I mean, that at least is the basics. Now, again, John's saying there are different types of
They're called exotics
now.
Exotic wagering.
And so if you go to a track now, you can bet what I just said, but you could also bet, like John said, all those different combinations. And then if you want to bet, let's say, an exacta, which we call the race is going to come in. The two horses are going to come in first and second. You could do an exact box to make it more complicated, where you pick the number 1 horse and the number 5 horse, and you say 1's going to come in first, 5 is going to come in second, or the reverse. And that's called a box, right, John?
Right, yes. And then you have it with the triple box. They have a superfecta box. Actually, when you go to the track, you should get the program. In the program, they have a wagering information guide, and they have how to wager. And they actually list all the types of wagers you can make and what the potential payouts are. Obviously, the more complicated or exotic the wager is, the more you can make. And that's the younger generation now. Now they want to go and bet $2 and try to win $2,000. Where years ago, they would bet $2 to make $2.
Right. The greed of our society comes through, if you will, or the quick money. But now you just mentioned the program, correct?
Correct.
And now with a program, you're going to have a list of the horses running. And now there are a lot of different factors in each particular race. What are the factors of each race, for example?
The factor, first of all, is the distance of the race, whether it's on the grass or the dirt, the track condition, what the track is like that day, whether it was raining or not. Sometimes you take the races off the grass. Scratches are important. Scratches when someone's not running. So the first thing you do when you get to the track is you would check what they call the scratch board. And on the scratch board, it lists all the horses that are out for that day. It would also list if there was changes to the program, meaning a jockey may have had too much macaroni the night before, and he could be overweight. So when they say a guy's overweight, he's supposed to ride at a certain weight in that race, 112 pounds. Sometimes they come in at 114 pounds. Now, you think it may not matter, but sometimes it does matter. Those pounds matter.
So how do I know if he ate too much?
You know by if he's overweight.
Did it actually say that? It'll say
overweight 2 pounds. They wouldn't say because he ate too much, but sometimes maybe they do put on weight, these jockeys, believe it or not. It's hard for a grown man to maintain a weight of 100 pounds and hold back a thoroughbred horse that weighs 2,500 pounds.
That would be a great diet plan, wouldn't it? You wake up in the morning and you look at the board and you see, overweight 2 pounds every morning. That's the first thing you say.
Well, that's a great point, though. Let's talk about the jockey for a moment, because on the racing form, you will also have the list of the jockey, and if you look somewhere on the form, it'll be their percentage winnings for that particular meet or that season.
And for the year sometimes, too.
Right.
So you'll see how successful they are.
Right. Now, that's not always, a guarantee, but if he's batting, let's say, 600 or, 60% of the time versus 15% of the time, that might be something you consider saying, I may, bet on this particular horse.
Also depends on the distance. Some jockeys are better at shorter distance on horse. Some are better at longer distance. They could judge a race better. Some are better on the grass, like you said.
Well, our jockeys, athletes, let's look at that for a second. Look at these
absolutely.
guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. They're all muscle. 100 pounds of muscle.
And these guys are special guys. You see them walking around and they're wearing these funny outfits, if you will. But if you were to look at them and they've got specials and things, you see them in their locker room or whatever. Like you said, full, all muscle, no fat whatsoever. Because they've got to control how much,
2,500 pounds.
2,500 pounds for a horse, and the guy's 100 pounds.
That's running 35 miles an hour.
Right. So think about that. And changing the goggles, as you said, also, and whipping this horse.
And looking where to go and where to ride and what to do.
So there is this huge sport to it besides the gambling. So now you've got the racing form. You've crossed off the horses that are not running. You've circled, the jockeys, let's say, that you like because they've got certain percentages. Then you're looking at what else?
Well, the trainer's important, obviously. And then you look at post position, believe it or not. If a horse is coming out of post position 12 as opposed to post position 1, that could change how a horse does.
Because he's got more track to cover.
Yes, because he's got to come over, correct.
Right.
And if it depends on how many turns they're going around. Is it a 1-turn race, a 2-turn race? So it depends. Sometimes the one hole could be good, meaning you're close to the rail, but sometimes you get blocked out. That's what happens in Kentucky Derby. They have 20 horses going that race. And if anybody gets to one hole, they're not going to win the race. And if they get to 20 hole, a lot of times they're not going to win the race.
Because they're going to get blocked out.
Yeah,
Someone
there's
else
too
is
much
gonna cut 'em
competition
off.
in there.
Yeah, right. So now you're looking at, when you said trainer, there's also percentages on the trainer. So maybe you're looking for, a horse that has a trainer that has a nice winning percentage, a jockey that has a nice winning percentage. But what's the trouble if you're doing that? And of course, we talk about math, and that's, of course, important and for the kids to look at and see what that's all about. But what if you're betting on a horse, let's say that the jockey is the best jockey and the trainer is the best trainer? What are the odds, if you will, on that horse?
You're going to be a big favorite, obviously. And that's why you're looking to beat that. But let me tell you just something.
Well, why is it going to be a big favorite? What does that mean to be a big favorite?
The favorite means you're not going to make any money. Bet $2, you may only get back $2.50 or $2.40.
Well, let's talk about that. So the odds on that one might be, let's say, 2-1 as opposed to 5-1. What does it mean, 2-1?
2-1 means for every dollar you bet, you get $2 back plus your dollar you bet. So you get $3. You make your money back plus. But just going back to that point, just
Right.
briefly, Doug, about those percentages. Think about when we didn't have computers and you didn't have those percentages. People kept this in their mind. The mind was the computer. So you knew how good a jockey was. You knew how good a trainer was. You knew the stats of the mother and the father of these horses. So that's the difference from back then to now. Now you open up the paper, everything's here. Every
And
percentage,
actually, yeah,
every
there's-
statistic is here.
There's more there than you want. So we'll
Right.
talk about the racing form, which is different than racing program, which gives you additional information, and then we'll try to summarize for you. Just
Make
a,
it simple for me.
Exactly,
if I'm
a
going
general
for the first
idea.
time.
So we'll come back in a few seconds here on Everything Old is New Again. And please listen to our podcast at EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz if you haven't heard a past show. And we'll be right back on the other side of the commercials.
This portion of Everything Old is New Again is sponsored by ResumeDrInc.com. When you're seeking to change your career, apply for a promotion, or trying to find a job, your resume is the first thing that is seen that represents you to a potential employer. Make sure your resume makes a clear, concise, and professional impression of who you are so you can get that job interview. Send your current resume to ResumeDrInc@AOL.com for a free online review. You'll receive a timely reply with a reasonable quote to properly prepare your resume. Let them make sure you have a resume that will get you noticed. Send your resume or questions to ResumeDrInc@AOL.com. That's ResumeDrInc@AOL.com.
Affirmed under a left-hand whip. Alidar on the outside driving. Affirmed and Alidar heads apart. Affirmed's got a nose in front as they come onto the wire. At the finish, it's going to be dead tight. Affirmed wins.
And listen to that crowd. That's if you really focus on that if you listen and understand what that was Affirmed's victory at Belmont, the last Triple Crown winner in 1978. But that excitement, that thrill. How many of those people you think had that horse as in their betting scenario?
A lot of them still have the tickets.
Really?
People buy the tickets and save them as a souvenir. They don't cash you. The track loves a day like that.
So that horse probably was a favorite, I'm presuming. I mean, we don't remember.
Absolutely.
So you bet $20 and it came in, you would have come out with, let's say, $35, but instead you keep that ticket because why?
Well, most people aren't going to bet the 20. They bet $2 because they're not that generous. They're not going to let because the track keeps all that money, obviously.
That's true.
So they're not going to let the track keep 20. But the reason they do is because maybe they get a frame, a picture of the horse, put in a frame, put the ticket in there. Maybe one day you get the jockey or trainer to sign it. It's a great souvenir. It's a great item, and it's worth some money.
Yeah, and again, you have predicted the future. You were the
Yes.
one that picked that horse. You know, you could predict and talk about that for generations to come.
This year at the Belmont Stakes, we ran into Steve Coburn, the owner of California Chrome, and we took a picture when we had him sign the program, next to the horse's name, because
cool.
in case he
Yeah.
happened to win, that would be a great souvenir.
Sure.
Right, see that? All right, back to the idea of betting. There's some other factors involved. Not to get too complicated, but you do hear these two terms a lot. You hear this horse is a closer or this horse is a speed horse. What does that mean?
A speed horse is a horse that wants to break first and stay first all the way and try to steal the race, as we call it. Try to go to the lead and steal the race. A closer is a horse that's going to stay back and make a run at the end or stalk from a stalking position and try to come late. And that's what happened in the Belmont Stakes this year. Obviously.
So are these horses trained to do that, or are they just like that naturally?
Both, but they're also bred that way. If you take the father was fast and the mother was fast, the horse, that baby's going to be fast.
Okay.
So it's all part of the breeding too. So that's
Right.
part of studying the horse racing is to know who the mother and father was to see if this horse could go fast or long.
And that brings up a point. If you now get off of the program, but buy the racing form, which is a different document, that's more or less a newspaper, if you will. It's a pretty big paper you'll see at the track, and you'll see it, in your card store. I get one over there.
Yeah.
Or you can buy it online now. You can get downloaded. I download them, and I make my predictions, so to speak, do my handicapping the night before. So when I go to the track, I don't have to worry about all this stuff. I've already got my horses picked out, and I can enjoy...
But don't you need to see who the scratches are and if the jockey ate too much pasta and all
You
that
do.
kind of stuff?
You do if you...
You modify, yeah, you modify.
Absolutely. You modify a little bit, but I've done a lot of my homework ahead of time instead of scrambling for those 20 minutes in between the races, figuring all this stuff out.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the racing form. The form will have what kind of information do you look for in the form that shows you this particular horse is a closer or this horse is a speed horse?
Well, generally, they'll give the distance of the race, and then they give what they call a position order. It'll say if the horse started at post position 8, and then they'll show that he was fifth, then he was fourth, then he was second, and then he won. It means he closed. So if it says 1-1-1-1-1, that means he was a speed horse right to the lead.
So what you'll see is what we're talking about is past performances. So horse X, you look at the past, but you can see 12 of the last races they ran, and if they're all like 1-2, 1-2, 1-1-1, you know it's a speed horse. If you see it started at 8, then went to 6, then went to in other words, they'll show you at every quarter mile, I think it is, right?
Okay.
Where the horse was in the race. So those are those numbers that follow the horse. People don't understand what those. Was it 6 numbers?
It could be about 7 numbers.
Depends on the length of the race.
Yeah,
but you'll see those numbers, and now that's a horse is a closer, or that's a speed horse. Now, how do you know if a closer or a speed horse is going to win a particular race? Why would you pick one versus the other?
He might be a mutter.
Or he might.
Go one. And talking to someone who doesn't go to track, who wants to go to track, I think people aren't always interested in reading the racing form. They're going to want to look at the horse and make their own predictions based upon what the horse looks like, the color, like I said, the number. People bet numbers. People bet their home address. People bet
so when you say bet the color, I mean I like brown, not that he looks
Black.
a little pale today.
No,
okay.
No, black, gray. Also, people bet names. We talked about names. People like to bet names. And there's nothing wrong with that. A horse named Little Nicky, like my son. If that horse is running, my son might come over and say, Dad, should I bet that horse? And I'm like, I'm going to tell him yes. I'm not going to say no, because if I say no and the horse wins, I'm in trouble. I
also know John's got a buddy of his. We've gone a couple of times, and he has, believe it or not, if I'm right about this, I've just observed this from the outside looking in, favorite numbers. So all of a sudden, he'll say, he'll always bet on making it up, the number 3 horse. And all of a sudden, the 3 horse comes in. That's my number. I can't believe it. I won. Like, he loves a number. Yeah.
And am I wrong? Yeah, he actually likes multiple numbers. He'll bet like his birthday, 719, right. And that'll be someone's anniversary, or wedding anniversary, and that's what people bet for a triple, and they root on that number. Betting on names, people they use people's names. Michael, John, Lori, Doug. They use the names. So people are always going to bet on those horses right off the bat. Honestly, they actually get overbet because people bet names.
Right. If I see a comic book character, there are some in the horses, and I'll bet on that one.
You'll bet for Batman.
Right.
Win.
Batman's Revenge or something like whatever the name might be.
Regardless of the odds. Absolutely.
So if I'm going with you guys, right, and I've dumb it down for me a little bit. I've never bet before, right. Okay? And all these stats and the data, it's fascinating, and I could see getting into it. But if I really don't know anything, but I want to get my feet wet, what's the easiest way for me to bet?
I think the easiest way is just pick a horse that you like in a race and probably bet win, place, and show. You bet on what they call across the board. So if your horse comes in first, second, or third, you're going to make some money. You're not there that day to get into complicated wagering. You want to keep it simple. So you're going to bet a horse that you like, put it win, place, and show, and just you root for that horse. At least you could focus. Problem that people have is when they have multiple bets going, they don't know who to root for. We have some friends of ours, Doug knows, that the race is going on. The guy's rooting for 4 different horses. The race ends. He says he won. He takes out his tickets. He ends up losing because he bet so many combinations. He didn't know what he had during the race. Yeah. So I said, I thought you liked the 4. He goes, I did, but I changed my mind. I used him in a triple, or I dropped him, and So what ends up happening is, you change your thought process. So keep it simple.
Yeah, okay. There's 2 things to add to that. Number one, pigtailing on that statement. It's funny because you'll see when you go with your buddies, and all of a sudden a race will be over, and they'll make it stay with the 3 horse. The 3 horse won, and you'll hear the guy say, I love that horse. I absolutely love that horse. You turn to him and say, oh, great. Wow, that was a 5-to-1 horse. You must have turned it into some bucks. How'd you make out? Well, I tell you, my cousin told me not to bet on that one this day. He liked the 6 horse, and I did an exotic with the 6 and the 12. And there's an excuse, and that's half of the fun.
That's what you hear.
Character didn't bet on the horse that he loves.
That ends up happening. If you talk to too many people, you change your mind. So I would say, if you like something, just bet it. If it's 50-1, if it's 5-1, just bet what you like.
Should I just go for the 2-1 or the favorite?
No. The favorites don't win all the time.
But this is me, right? I don't know anything about these
I would tell you to bet a long shot.
Really?
Yeah.
Because that gives you a kick.
More excitement, more storytelling. Even if you hit the favorites win about 30% of the time, maybe even less, 28% of the time. Saratoga is known as the graveyard of favorites, because all the favorites lose at Saratoga. So what happens is you don't want to bet the favorite. I would tell you not to bet the favorite.
So can I put as little as $1?
Yes,
on a
you actually
20-1
can
horse?
bet. You could put $1 now. They changed all the wage instructions down. You can even put, 50 cents on a triple now. They've reduced it so people will make more bets.
Right. And I went to Monmouth with my in-law lives down there. My father-in-law lives down there. We went with my wife and the kids, and we went to the track. We just went for one race, two races, just to have some fun. And we bet on the long shot. That was a year and a half ago. We still talk about it because we put $2 on it, and we went ahead and won $35. It was like, the biggest thing on the planet.
That's what you want. You want a story.
Right.
The track's all about stories. So we hope that when you leave, you say, I made $50 on this long shot, not that I made $1.80.
Right.
Right, exactly.
That was really exciting. Thank you for that story.
Smart, right.
The other thing is that I would say is on the Racing Form, which is the newspaper of the track, of the horses running for that day, on all the way to the right, there's a paragraph about every single horse. 4 or 5 sentences, maybe 3 sentences, and it summarizes what we say. So it kind of, if you're interested in this idea of what's going on here, that will summarize for you what we're saying a little bit.
Well, they have what they call public handicappers. There's the track handicapper who will have something in there, and he tells you what his version of that horse is. And then you have these tip sheets. That's something Doug always asks about, tip sheets, is where somebody actually picks 3 horses every race, and you have to pay for a bet. And it's actually a closed document. And guys were known over the years to say, I like Lawton sheet. I like the Wizard. The Wizard's still around, as a matter of fact. So people will go and just buy that sheet.
You have no idea what's on the sheet. You're just trusting the person.
You're trusting that
picking.
person. So years ago, it used to be $1. It's $5. It's $10. There's even some more expensive ones that you can go online and pay $75 for a person's picks.
Wow.
So if you don't want to pick them yourself, you have someone else.
You
pick
don't
them
have to
better.
think. In other words,
you don't have to think.
Wow.
Or you can make up a website and start that up as your own business.
People do it,
and you got yourself a future in horse racing. You just pick them by Dave's picks. But of course, you got to have some history of winning. Right. Anyway, this is a fascinating discussion. We've enjoyed it. Thank you, John, for being with us today.
Yes,
John
thank you.
Servitors
You're welcome.
really added a lot to the subject. This is Everything Old is New Again on Long Island News Radio 103.9. Please listen to the podcast at EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz. We will see you next week.
When are we going to the track, the 3 of us?
Saratoga's right at that corner.
All right.
Beautiful.